All right, let's start with the big story that we are tracking at this hour, where Bangladesh is planning to relocate as many as 100,000 Rohingya refugees from the congested Cox's Bazar area to an uninhabited island in the Bay of Bengal just off the coast of Bangladesh. But after much promises on receiving help from foreign powers to aid the process, it looks like this will not happen, as Bangladesh has received less than nothing from the foreign donors after all. Now, the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Mohammad Shahryar Alam, has confirmed that Bangladesh is paying the entire amount of $280 million to build homes and also to fortify the muddy island in the Bay of Bengal from cyclones. He's also added that Bangladesh is also mulling asking for a formal request to the United Nations, which in turn needs to ask its member nations for funds. Now, some international organizations such as Amnesty International have raised concerns that the island is actually vulnerable to flooding, which is why the aid is being withheld. But the foreign minister has assured that there is absolutely no reason to worry, because an embankment would also be built to protect the island from such eventualities. Now, earlier, Amnesty International's South Asia Director Biraj Patnaik had raised concerns that this would be a terrible mistake to relocate the Rohingya refugees to the island. The tens of thousands of Rohingya refugees are presently at risk of death or serious injury when the seasonal monsoon season begins in Bangladesh. All right, now for more on this, we are joined in by our Dhaka Bureau Chief Saad Hamadi. Saad, good morning to you. This is an interesting development that has taken place, where for the first time the world, it appeared, was waking up to the Rohingya crisis, but they have paid lip service. They've condemned the violence that has taken place against the Rohingyas, but they haven't exactly opened their purse strings to try and rehabilitate the Rohingyas.
Well, Saleh, the relocation process is required given where these Rohingya refugees are currently accommodated in the hill areas in Cox's Bazar. And many of these places are vulnerable to landslides. Mind you, in the areas where these Rohingya refugees are right now, have historically had experiences of landslides and where lives have been lost. And monsoon is just about 3 months away, so the time is very short for these people to be relocated and moved to a safer location. I've just had words with people in the UNHCR, and they've said that what they're doing right now is leveling the grounds in the existing area, putting sandbanks and embankments to ensure that there is no landslide taking place, and relocating them in within the vicinity. But the suggestion of relocating them to Bhashan Shore, where the government is right now considering moving about 100,000 people of the refugee community, the Rohingya refugee community, it may not be a very good idea, given that it's a very remote island, which is considered as uninhabitable right now, and are also prone to flooding. So in this kind of a situation, relocating these people, and that to just 100,000 people of nearly 1 million refugees, it doesn't really make sense as to why or how this 100,000 would make a difference in the relocation. There are still about 900,000 people who would be remaining in the existing location in Cox's Bazar. So it's still not clear.
Right, and also the Interior Minister there, Shahryar Alam, he said that Bangladesh intends to spend as much as about $280 million all on its own. What sense does it make to actually have this island, which some have said is prone to flooding, because the monsoon season, as you pointed out, is just about 3 months away. Now, Shahryar Alam goes out and says that, look, we are trying to ensure that nothing of the flooding and such fears do not actually happen if people were to be relocated there. Why is this step, in fact, being taken by the Bangladeshi government in that context then?
So, as I said, that it's not clear why the government is focusing on Bhashan Shore, which is now being made into an habitable place by the Bangladesh Navy, who has taken up the project to make that place livable for now. The government, particularly State Foreign Minister Shahryar Alam, has also ensured that they are going to provide livelihood for the refugees with farming and other opportunities within the island, and for as long as they're there. But it's just 100,000 that the focus is on. But the refugee number has gone up to 1 million, and these people are staying in Cox's Bazar. So these people need to be relocated in safer locations in the larger context, so that the monsoon does not affect them in the way it's being feared. So instead of relocating this 100,000, what the government should focus on is how these people can go without being exposed to any kind of extremities or catastrophes that could happen in the monsoon season.
Absolutely. And also, Saad, you have covered, the plight of the Rohingyas who are presently at the Cox's Bazar in the absolute squalor-like conditions in which they presently live. Now, the West for several decades had been blind to the persecution of the Rohingyas. They've been known as the most persecuted community anywhere in the world. For the first time, we saw some sort of condemnation coming in from the Western powers, the United States, Britain, etc. But when it comes to actually helping them out, talk to us a bit about how much has the West contributed in this context?
The humanitarian efforts are still coming to Bangladesh. The fresh appeal that the UN has made is about $950 million, which has yet to arrive, and which is what possibly is giving Bangladesh anxiety as regards what's going to happen to these people unless they are moved to a safer location. But the West and the European countries, as well as the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, are the countries that are putting in their efforts to provide the humanitarian aid, particularly with regards to accommodating these people until these people are repatriated to Myanmar. So there are two fronts to look into this. One is the existing circumstance where they need to be accommodated and provided the basic shelters and rights within the existing livable conditions. And the other is that making an arrangement so that they can return to their homes safely with dignity, as has been prescribed by the UN declarations.
Right.
So there are two fronts to it. And right now the focus is on having them live in a safer location. And that is still underway. The efforts and calls are still being pursued, but Bangladesh appears to be worried with regards to their situation right now. And given that monsoon is only 3 months away, they really need to move fast with the decision. But moving 100,000 people to Bhasanchar is still not quite a clear idea of what happens afterwards and what happens to the remaining people.
Absolutely indeed. And Saad, you've spoken with many of these Rohingyas who fled from the Rakhine province while they were facing persecution there. Now, there are talks of them being repatriated back into Myanmar or to areas such as Bhasanchar, which is one of the silt islands in the Bay of Bengal. What do they think about this entire talk of repatriation?
Until now, my conversation with these people with regards to the repatriation, I've hardly found any confidence in the Rohingya refugees with regards to moving back to their homeland, given that they do not have any citizenship. And without citizenship, there is no possibility or guarantee that they will get their basic rights with regards to security, food, shelter, education, and of the sorts. And they do not want to return until they're granted the citizenship. And there has not been any talks in that regard from the Myanmar government with any assurance provided to the people of the Rohingya community. So there is no interest of these refugees to return at this point in time. And they said that they are happy to return, but only after this assurance is made and they're granted the citizenship. And that is where the contention lies.
Right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Saad Hamadi, for joining us from Dhaka and getting us all those inputs. We'll, of course, keep coming back to you as the story unfolds in Bangladesh.